Tencent's new game is accused of copying the Horizon series. Nintendo's new legal target is 200,000 Reddit users and Google, and Bloodborne is getting maintenance for PlayStation's 30th anniversary. All of this on today's gaming news. Hello, we're back. I'm back.
And so am I also here as well.
Yeah, you're back. I said you'd be back. And
well, actually, I said I was back.
I said you'd be back, and now we're both back, and that's the most important thing.
And we're doing it on Friday.
You know who's not back? Shuhei Yoshida, he didn't reply to me.
Oh no, yeah. But he might just be really busy.
That's true.
He might have loads of messages.
I bet lots of people messaged him and said, thank you so much for being such a cool dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll let you know when he replies.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I know he will.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It's not an if, it's a when.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident about that. Our first headline. Tencent's new game is accused of copying the Horizon series. You're wearing a Horizon hoodie today.
Actually, it's not Horizon, it's a Light of Motiram.
Light of Motiram.
Just kidding, it is Horizon, but
right.
You might mistake it for Light of Motiram because it looks exactly the same.
Certainly does.
It's from Tencent's subsidiary Polaris Quest. It's described as an open-world multiplayer survival game where nature meets machine, which, you know, has maybe been done before, but doesn't necessarily mean it can't be done again if you want to.
Yeah.
However, if you are going to do it again, maybe just don't make it look exactly the same as Guerrilla Games' Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West games.
Yes.
You know, just maybe.
So, I have conflicting feelings about this because I was firmly in camp, hey, let Palworld do whatever it wants. It's Pokemon, sure, it looks a lot like Pokemon, but they've got guns, so it's kind of different, and it's like an online collaborative crafting
Pokemon
survival.
Would never have guns.
Pokemons would never have guns. Certainly not Blastoise with his 2 guns on his back.
Yeah, they wouldn't have an AK-47 then.
No, they wouldn't.
So that's why it's different.
That is why it's different. However, this, even from just looking at the artwork, just the colours of it, it looks basically exactly the same.
Their like key title art is almost like framed exactly the same as the Horizon. I don't know if it's Forbidden West or Zero Dawn, like original key art as well. Like there's a woman with a spear on one side. There's the title in the background. You've got tall monsters and the Horizon and buildings that are half coming down. Like even colour-wise looks exactly the same. The poster is identical.
They're called Mechanimals in this game.
Yes, they are. For context, they've said, rebuild a new civilization, battle, befriend, and raise various Mechanimals alone or with friends in a sprawling hostile world. It's a free-to-play either on your own or with up to 9 friends with full cross-play enabled. It's meant to be coming next year on PC and mobile. Which Guerrilla Games might be punching the air about, which might be their one reason to be like, this can't exist, because they were making a live service Horizon game.
Yeah, they're sort of beating them to the punch here a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But, I mean, we've seen, they've put like clips as well, and images of like some of the Mechanimals. And some people have put them literally side by side with Horizon key art regarding those same very similar animals, and they look identical. Like the deer one looks exactly the same, it's just a different colour scheme. Like it's so similar, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Palworld, people are also accusing it of copying Palworld as well.
And Monster Hunter.
Because you can. So the reason people think it's copying Palworld is, and the only difference, the kind of key difference that they're really pinning this on is that it's not like an epic story-driven game. It's a base building, survival, resource gathering type game, and you can tame Mechanimals a bit like Palworld. But I don't think you catch them in balls because that is obviously
that's what Nintendo didn't like.
At Nintendo. So there is lots of conversation regarding the various games it's ripping off, which I think is quite normal with games kind of copying other mechanics or taking inspiration from other places. I just think the main issue it's quite how similar it looks.
Yes, it's at least at first impressions, you look at that and you think they very clearly are trying to ape that style, which isn't necessarily bad, but you shouldn't. There's taking inspiration and then there's just doing that.
Hey bro, can I copy your homework?
Just doing that. So they'll play very differently. They'll look very different. I imagine it'll squeak through fine. Everyone will just sort of go, pfft. But there's a good chance that this was done specifically to get some nice advertising and headlines.
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, if Sony sue them, if suddenly all the headlines are Sony suing Tencent Light of Motiram, which by the way is a horrible name.
That's rubbish.
Then suddenly Light of Motiram's in everyone's brains
People
for a
are going
little
to check it
while.
out regardless.
People will check it out. People who are actively against Horizon just because will be like, I'm going to play this game instead of your rubbish game.
She's got a beard in that one.
She's got a beard in that one. And maybe they'll change a few bits. Maybe they're preemptively ready to change a few bits, and the lawsuit will happen. They'll get lots of attention from it, and maybe people will play their game.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now we'll have to see what happens, because I don't know if Sony will let this one slide.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see.
Next story, speaking of lawsuits,
Yeah.
Nintendo are at it again. So there's this guy, he's called James Williams. He's known as Archbox. He was pursued legally by Nintendo earlier this year, was it?
Yeah.
Because he was involved in lots of different piracy groups.
Yeah, specifically the website Modded Hardware, which
Right.
was a quite bad piracy website.
And since then, they have been desperate to try and find out the circles he's been running in. And as a result, they have essentially subpoenaed, is it the entirety of a subreddit?
Yeah,
Or they've subpoenaed Cloudflare, Discord, GitHub, Google, and Reddit, along with domain companies Namecheap, GoDaddy, and Two Cows?
Two cows?
To cows?
To cows?
I don't know. In order to gain information on the 200,000 members of the subreddit, what's it called? Switch Pirates,
Yeah.
which is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, so there's a few question marks here being raised. One are these companies going to give them this information? For
Yeah.
Google, they want access to Google Drive and Gmail data, and we don't know quite what they want from Discord yet. But I don't imagine a company like Google will be like, yeah, sure. Here's all the data from people who you maybe asked about. And 200,000 people is an absolutely massive
It's a
amount
proper
of people.
scorched earth approach
Yeah.
again from Nintendo.
The reason they're doing this is they're trying to shut down and find people who are involved in things called pirate shops, which are ways to sell pirated content online. And the reason that they want this is because this guy, James Archbox Williams, they believe, so he was the main moderator for the subreddit, and they say that people in that subreddit, some of them are key actors in these pirate shops, and thus they want information. But in order to find out who these key actors are, they want to subpoena 200,000 people's data from Reddit, which is an absolutely massive number, and seems like pretty bad if Reddit just give up that amount of information. Obviously, Reddit's a pretty anonymous website. No one has their real names on there. It's all like usernames, and you can make burner accounts super easy. So like, I don't know how easy it's going to be or how actually useful anyway, but it's still going to be a real bad look from Reddit if they don't even try to
protect
their users' data.
Piracy is illegal and it's bad, and you shouldn't do it, obviously. However, when it comes to people's personal information, I would like to think that the likes of Google, Reddit, Discord would maybe try and fight this a bit, because you can't just... I think for me, it's a sliding scale. Like if they were involved, if the FBI were after private data and information on individuals they suspected of being involved in horrific crimes, for example, I would understand Google and Reddit and so on collaborating. However, even though piracy is illegal, this feels like a mass invasion of privacy to me, for them to potentially just go, here you go, here's all the data that you've asked for. That doesn't feel right to me necessarily. Yeah,
so I completely agree. The subpoena reads, the reason that they want to do this is because he's obviously in this Reddit, but they've said, in the course of our investigation, we've also become aware of multiple other online actors who appear to have a role in these pirate shops. However, we were unable to determine the identity or locations of these other actors with a sufficient degree of certainty to name them in the initial complaint. Nintendo of America thus did not include these individuals in the lawsuit, with the expectation that ordinary discovery would reveal the identity and location of these actors. So that is why they've subpoenaed all this information from these companies. Obviously, subpoenas can be fought, and I wonder if we will see them be fought. I would hope so.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. There's, Nintendo are notorious for protecting their IP. They have every right to do so.
Yeah,
but it's always the scorched earth, bull in a china shop approach to this stuff that gets people's eyebrows raised. Like, really? Because a lot of the time they go, like, it's people who do emulators for older consoles, and they're like, they're some of your biggest supporters.
Yeah.
They're preserving your history where you're not doing that, and you're flipping arresting them. It's not a good look most of the time for them.
I do often find myself kind of feeling like Nintendo's the Goliath, and we see a lot of Davids being taken on.
Just murdered.
Because they never just be like, a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah,
2
don't do
years
that.
in prison. It's like, you owe me money for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
None of your money is ever
forever.
yours again, and you are ours for the rest of eternity and ever.
And that's real.
And it's like,
You're not even making that up.
I'm not even making that up.
There's someone who's doing that right now.
That Bowser guy. Is it Doug or Greg Bowser?
One of them. He's one of the Bowsers.
Is like owes Nintendo millions and millions of pounds and will never be able to pay them back.
Yeah.
So
they're taking it out of his wage forever.
Yeah.
It's
a really brutal approach from
I don't like
Nintendo,
it.
as per usual. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll keep an eye on it.
We will. Hey, are you ready to get your hopes up?
Yes, and I bet people on Reddit are as well.
Bloodborne is getting maintenance for PlayStation's 30th anniversary. Fans have been surprised by the in-game server maintenance notice, which just so happens to coincide with PlayStation's 30th birthday on December the 3rd. Why would it undergo server maintenance on their 30th birthday? Yes, Ashton.
Maybe they're making a remaster or a remake or a second one. Maybe they're making a new Bloodborne then. Did you think about that?
They're not.
Oh.
That's not happening. Stop getting your hopes up. They're not buying Kadokawa in order to make Bloodborne 2. We're not getting a remaster. We're not getting a remake. Would I love to be wrong? Of course I would. I'm a Bloodborne fan. I want to be there with everyone else playing these games and getting excited. But we have been hurt so many times. This specific thing has happened before, thank you, on the Game Awards 2022 when maintenance was scheduled for the day of the show and everyone was like, oh my god, here we bloody go, it's time again. It's not. We are starving for crumbs that Sony aren't even willing to give us.
Yeah.
These things are scheduled, feels like, intentionally to get people's hopes up. Set your expectations rock bottom as low as you possibly can, because not only is this not likely to happen at all, but if it does happen, then just think how amazing it'll feel.
Yeah, I mean, like, it would be absolutely wonderful to see the Bloodborne fans vindicated for their years of suffering and just what's the word? Enthusiasm regarding the game. I actually think it's quite on brand for the company to make their fans suffer.
It feels like it now.
Yeah.
It feels targeted.
Yeah. But obviously Sony are in talks to buy Kadokawa, but that apparently has been ongoing for years. That's not brand new news. Apparently that's been happening behind the scenes for a long time, according to some sources. So maybe we'll see them talk a bit more about it in the future. However, that obviously depends on the acquisition of Kadokawa, and then even then, whether they care enough. We talked about it when we were talking about the acquisition a few weeks ago, that if Sony wanted to,
they could have done it by now.
They would have done it already.
They could do it at any time. They don't care.
Yeah.
The fact they're doing server maintenance at all is a miracle, and we should be thankful for that.
It is a bit weird that they are doing server maintenance.
And if they announce something, I'd be bloody chuffed, I tell you. But I don't think it's likely because they don't care, and they've proven they don't care.
Yeah, a Reddit user on the Bloodborne subreddit, I think Amy G.
No, I can pronounce this for you. It's a Bloodborne boss.
Thank you.
Amygdala.
Thank you.
PLS is an amygdala, please.
Cool, thank you. I was baffled by that.
Amy Gadala?
I was like, what a fun surname.
Gadala.
Friendly reminder that they've periodically done server maintenance before, and that's exactly what it's always been, server maintenance. Not a new patch, not an update, not anything along those lines. I do wish it was more, but alas, brace for disappointment.
Let's cross our fingies, but I don't think it's going to happen. Hopefully we get some announcements on the day for other stuff that's going on. I imagine
think you're going to get?
Those little the squishy shapes they announced as
or
part of the 30th.
Or the ones you can build a little creature out of.
They called it Shapes of Play. They're charging like up to £70 for those.
Yeah.
Maybe some more of those. Just pile the disappointment on.
Fingers crossed.
Can't
You can get a
wait.
little Bloodborne guy from Astrobot, squishy one, to squeeze to death.
People would genuinely love that. They're starved.
I know
they want
are.
it.
I know they are.
They really want it. But that concludes the news for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. Make sure you follow us on our relevant social media channels where we post daily video game news, and tune into the podcast this weekend where we talk about all sorts of gaming stuff. More depth on the proposed PlayStation handheld and more. So come check it out on the podcast channel. Until then, though, have a lovely weekend. If you celebrated Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to you. And we will see you very soon. Bye.